Welcome back, YouTube, for another video here. We're going to be touching up on the topic of fundamental versus technical analysis for trading and how you can use it for entries to a specific side, whether you want to short or go long. It's going to be good to identify how you can identify it fundamentally. You're looking at market structure, and then how you can move over into the technicals to give you an idea of where the momentum is shifting. Today we are going to be focusing on some moving averages that we use, and also a momentum indicator that can help you shift it in the correct direction. So let's take a look at just a prior day this past week, give you guys an idea. You guys can see, if we're looking at the fundamentals of this whole movement here on the 10 tick, you can see that the trend is actually down, right? And we had a resistance here coming up against, let's see, we have a couple of slight resistances at 64.25 and also at 82.50, right? So ideally, when most people want to trade, they want to trade with the actual trend. It's going to give them the opportunity to get the best, highest probability trades. However, on the flip side, if you do want to go and trade in the opposite end, or if you feel like the market is going to transition to a different trend, then you're going to need to see certain things happen in order for you to try to transition from a downtrend into an uptrend, which means you're going to have to break some resistances and go back up. Let's just take this scenario, for instance. 64.25 as high as 82.50 was the resistance, and there is a slight one above that, but transitioning back to the upside to touch the 28.20s, we would have to be above these 80 to 82.50s. So we're looking at what was happening on this specific day, and fundamentally we could see that we're in a downtrend. However, within this downtrend, we have created a low push. Right? We have created a low push here. We have impulse down lower. This is our lowest point, and every single time you can see as we push up, we are starting to create what they call a higher low movement here, right? So you can see the transitional point to turning back up to the upside. Fundamentally, you can see it happening within this market. So if we mark off a specific level that we're looking for right here, let's just say this low side of 35, this becomes our new support. Our new support, meaning we're actually thinking that the market is actually going to transition back up by just looking at what's going on here with the rotations, with the higher low movement. We're not making new lows, and ideally, if we're going to go back into the downtrend, we need the market to create new lows. So what's happening is this transitioning back up, and it's going to try to press out these 64.25s and maybe even as high as the 82.50s, right? So fundamentally, looking at this, you can see a downtrend would be considered by lower lows and lower highs. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, no new lower low, right? So as we start to try to press, the goal in mind is to try to press and get a new low, but we're not. We're getting a higher low movement, and we are now thinking, okay, this is probably going to turn back up to the upside to try to touch our resistances at 64.25. Now, how do you use technical analysis to give you an opportunity of entry, right? Because we can see clearly with fundamentals and market structure that this is giving us an opportunity of entry between 35 to maybe about as low as about 28. I would probably transition somewhere right around here. 33 to 35 would have been my entry for a long opportunity to go back up. Right? It doesn't mean we're going all the way back up, but it does mean that we're going to try to press against this downtrend to push it up into 64. Now, technically speaking, technical analysis, we're going to try to uncover how you can use some studies to identify what might be going on in these markets, right? So if I zoom in on this here, and you guys can see what we're looking at right here, we can draw pretty much the same arrows. This is a momentum indicator helping us identify that the momentum not only has shifted back up on this whole move upward, but is starting to create a higher low movement as well, right? And we're still higher low, higher low, higher low, still pushing. So what that tells us is actually the momentum is no longer to the downside, but is shifting back up. So as we take these long positions and we cannot break a new low, technical analysis will help us identify that this becomes a good opportunity between 33 to 35 as an opportunity to shift this back up. Why? Because we can see that the momentum here has shifted to the upside. It is buyers gradually coming in, and you can see we pulled down, we couldn't make a new low, pulled back up, still a higher low, still a higher low. Momentum is still shifting to the upside movement, right? So when we scroll this over and we watch the movement as we play it out, you guys are going to see that this movement actually gradually climbs up to 64, then to 82, and you can see how the momentum here is in line with the actual trade that we're trading, right? Which is to the upside movement, right? So when I zoom out of here, you guys to see we did pull, we did impulse to break a new push up higher, and then we came all the way back. Momentum was still up, pulled up, momentum still up, pulled up, momentum still up, and we're pressing to the upside. You can see how this would fall in line with your fundamentals of structured movement, price action, and market structure that creates a structured move to the upside. Now, could you have gotten long somewhere right around here? Yes, you could have. However, when you're identifying these specific areas right here as an opportunity to go long, and you're trying to highlight this area as an opportunity to go long, look at how the momentum, as you're trying to press to the upside here, right? Look at how the momentum actually shifts back down, right? It pulls back down and then builds the structured momentum to the upside there. Right, so we're actually following in line with, okay, where's my best entry to get in on this? And ideally, it would have been to follow the actual market structure. That's why it's important. Both are, I would say, equally important. However, market structure is the one thing that you want to understand. Price action, market structure, the fundamentals of that. First, you want to be able to see it with your eyes first, and then try to identify with technicals to get an entry opportunity or an edge from there. All right, we can actually take a look at another example of this and how it worked out the same exact way. Let's pull it over. Let's hide these studies for a second. Let me zoom out of this for a second, and I'll pull over another trade that we're looking at. So markets get all the way back up close to about the 80s and then shifts right back down into the downtrend. Now, if you're looking at fundamentally how to capture this type of move, well, then you have to identify that you're in the downtrend, draw a slight arrow, and you can see what was once resistance come back, act as support once, and then create the resistance again for a down move, right? So that was actually one of the opportunities that we took short on this side here within the actual trend movement. Was a good trade opportunity. You had a lot of rotations to give you an entry for that. All right, but we went right back into that actual downtrend here, and we're going to show you another example of how you can look to see how market structure can play this out, right? So we move it, move it, move it. Let's take off some of these lines here for a second and give you guys a good idea of what's going on, right? So we're back in that downtrend. We're moving over slightly to the right, but take a look at what happens. We go down again. We identified that it is a downtrend again. It went back, right? It pulled all the way back, and it's okay if it pulls that far back, right? Because we still held some of the resistances. So we went right back into the downtrend. Again, downtrend is defined as lower highs and lower lows. So we pull all the way back and then we'll create a new low, right? So this low right here is clearly lower than that low right there. All right, so we got that cleared up on the fundamentals. Now we move over to the right and we create a new low push in this downtrend, but all of a sudden something happens again. All right, we start to transition again. We're in that downtrend, we pull back up, and then the attempt is we're going to try to attempt to make a new low. But what happens here? We create a higher low movement, right? Fundamentally speaking, market structure is starting to hold a structured support, higher low, right? New push high, new higher low. Same push high, higher low right here, right? So we're moving over to the right here as we draw this out, but we can see fundamentally speaking that the market is actually starting to create higher low movement. So our entry again around the same area, 28 to about 30 is going to be our entry right at this point. You can see how much times we touched it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we attempted that area. Now let's look at the technical side of it. When we open this up, let's take a look at what we're looking at over here, right? When we scroll this over to the right, you guys can see what's actually taking place, right? Let's remove all of these lines off for a second so you guys can see. But we are starting to, again, go into that uptrend. We came, well, into that upward movement. that micro upward movement, because we're in a long-term downtrend, and we tried to pull back to make a new low. But instead, what it did was it took a prior resistance and it held it as support. And it pulled back up, and we tried it again, and it couldn't, and it failed. And now you can see the momentum is actually holding to the upside, right? The momentum is actually holding to the upside. And look how we mark that off, and we can identify that this momentum is up, and the structured movement is making a higher low movement. So as we shift this over to the right, you're going to see this attempt the resistances again. All right, let me take off all these studies here real quick so you guys can see with a clear view, but you're going to see it attempt the upside resistances again. Boom, right up into 64.25. Basic breakdown of fundamental versus technical analysis. Technicals are great, but technicals fall in line with market structure and the fundamentals of trading. All right, so they're going to help you identify things a little bit more clearly, but you'd have to be able to identify it with your eyes first, knowing your price action and market structure. All right, guys, that sums it up for today's video, but thank you guys again. If you guys do like this video, hit that like button. If you guys are not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me at data at TRADEPRO Academy. If not, you can also send me a message here on the YouTube, and I'll do my best to try to get back to you. You guys take care. Have a great day. Bye.